Hi guys. This one I actually want to talk about the Coda episode, which a lot of these mistruthers like to quote to prove that we are in a soul trap. And I found it so interesting because it's literally just a 4-minute long clip, and it very clearly actually says that we're not in a soul trap. So I found it so ironic how a lot of these mistruthers use it to prove, oh my gosh, this totally proves we're in a soul trap. But then when you go by it word by word, no, it says something entirely different. It does mention the soul trap, but it doesn't actually say we're in it. And then we also, what's the other one? We have Plato's cave analogy. I want to discuss that very briefly too, and just share in general thoughts on the Matrix. So it's a continuation from the last video. Watch it if you haven't yet, or watch it after this one. I mean, however you want to do it. Okay, so before we go into that, I'll put the video in the description below, just so you have it. If not, you can just look up, I think, Startrek Coda episode, Soul Trap, something like that. What I also wanted to say is this is a battle for your consciousness. You know, it really, really is. And there was this quote that I didn't get to mention in the last one, and it would be something according like the evil wouldn't be attacking you so hard if there wasn't something holy inside of you. Thieves don't break into empty homes. Holy, not in a religious sense, but whole actually, you know, holy comes from whole, being whole, having something very like a treasure inside of you. And before we dive into the Coda episode, I also received this really interesting comment on my social media. See, I personally don't have time to follow like a million other accounts or see what mistruthers are really talking about these days, but my followers do, and they make sure that I know. So this person, I blanked out their name, but he or she was basically saying how this one woman who up until recently was like the biggest supporter of a political party, starts with T, ends with rump, would not shut out about it over the past 4 years, by the way, would always mention the name at least once or twice in the videos that she made. How this person all of a sudden is really being pushed by some of these mistruthers. And my follower went on to say that she used to channel or communicate with beings from outside of the matrix. Like, seriously, I found that so funny. Because it means people are waking up to all these deceptions, right? Including the mistruther deceptions. And all her old videos are gone. Now she claims she got out, here's the kicker, and came back to save others, another savior. Thank you, Laura. That is crazy. I did not even know people were claiming that either on their own accounts or on other people's accounts, but that is legit, you know, out there. And that is just, it kind of proves how the entire point of my last video, it kind of proves that this entire soul trap community in and of itself is like a cult. You know, it's like there's no difference between the New Age cult, the religious cult, the truther cult, or the soul trapper cult. And that was basically what the video was about, you know, that people, no matter where they stand, even if they are aware of a soul trap reality or whatever reality they want to be in, no matter where they stand, that they're still in a cult mentality and need a savior, and that people who claim they're saviors and claim they channel with beings from outside of the matrix are being pushed onto the savior pedestal. Also, I want to say, if you're in the matrix, which you clearly are, if you're here, if you're walking among us, you're most likely not in touch with anything outside of the matrix. And outside of the matrix is AI anyhow, from what I've gotten so far. And also it reminds me of a lot of new agers, not that this person is necessarily new age, but just new agers in general. I think it started 2 or 3 years ago where new agers were starting to say, oh, I channel source, I'm special. It reminds me of that same claim. You know, it's ridiculous. No one can prove what you're really channeling, just channeling random entities, random AI. And the savior is wild, though, that people are really buying into that. Like I already said here, I hope people aren't buying into that BS, but I'm sure you always have some gullible who really buy into that. And this is why I also say it is a battle, a spiritual battle for your consciousness. You know, I personally know what attacks look like. And the attacks that have come through over the past few videos, just by exposing a few of these people, but just by exposing the tactics that they employ, have been very, very interesting. Let's put it that way. And also, if those claims are true, I'm a unicorn. I just want to put that out there. If any of those claims made by this person or other people that were mentioned before were true, I'm a unicorn. Get me a unicorn costume, because I am officially a unicorn. The cult is running deep for those who believe the savior narrative. I found it also very interesting to see who gets triggered. And, you know, like, just want to put that out there. And also, right, this is another very important one. Once you pull your energy, your attention, and your consciousness away from these vampires, legit energy vampires, they get immensely triggered. Have you ever noticed that? Your energy is your currency, and once it's gone, they can't do without whatever they were doing before. There's also this video on the tunnel of light that is out there. So I made one around 2 years ago. I think it was featured, or it's still featured as a trailer on this channel too. Something I want to edit towards that is there's not just one tunnel of light, but there are several different ones. And I got that, I think it was like a year ago or so. I think that just came through in a few sessions that I had. But basically, there are several tunnels of light, not just one. So you think there's only one out there. That's the only one you have to deal with. But no, there are several different ones. And a lot of them are wormholes dragging you into a different reality, a different realm, and a matrix outside of this one. So just yet again, another matrix. Okay, so let's go, instead of doing Plato's cave analogy, let's just go straight to the Coda episode, because I had a few notes on that. I'm not playing it here, but like I said, you can play it on your own laptop, computer, screen, wherever you have. It's like a 4-minute long video. It really doesn't take long at all. They don't say a whole lot in it, so you should be able to get the gist. It's not complicated English, so anyone who's even a non-English speaker should understand it. But basically, what caught my attention by just going through this small snippet of that entire episode is, first of all, there's this entity. So Janeway is the main character in this one. And she basically, they landed somewhere, forgot if it was like a planet or some sort of thing. The entire episode says it, but they landed somewhere. And she's basically fighting for her consciousness, trying not to die. So they're trying to resuscitate her. They're trying to bring her back to life. Like, she has these 2 or 3 helpers around her. And what I found really, 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 really interesting is, first of all, her body is in this other reality, which is like the true reality, it appears. But then she enters this alternate reality, which is probably also what a lot of people who experience the NDEs, the near-death experience, enter, where this entity claiming to be her father, if I'm not mistaken, and he looks like this, is basically saying, go with me towards this light, which you see in the background. And he basically looks like that. So there are different realities we're dealing with, no matter if we're here, fully conscious, or if we're about to die. And that's exactly what I mean. The only full consciousness you're ever going to have is when you're fully embodied in your body here. Once you die, you can be in like 10 different alternate realities. And because your consciousness is splintered across all those realms, it's going to be very, very hard for you to even think a proper thought. So you need to sort your thoughts out right now while you still can, while you're still alive, while you don't have Alzheimer's, while you don't have any sort of disease. You need to sort it out right now. And I feel that was the main message over and over again, not just in the last video, but many other videos that I've had. So the entity claiming to be her father is at first very nice. And then it turns out it's just someone masquerading like an alien. They say alien in the episode, masquerading to be her father, like the alien entity. And what they say at the end, which she is, go back to hell, to the entity, meaning we are in constant touch with the hell realm, even in daily life, but we're not in the hell realm like other channels like to claim. A lot of soul trapper channels like to claim this is a hell realm. I disagree with that. And then the entity also says something along the lines of, come into my matrix, meaning there are several matrices out there. We're just going from one to the next, such as the reality they want to build up over the past 4 years, such as some soul trappers want to build up this different reality, all of that. Let me go, sorry, I had these notes written down here. And then what's also really important is the entity saying, how long will it take you to give up this world? When he first said that, I was like, what they really want you to give up. They don't want you alive in this world at all anymore. The entity was demonizing loneliness. I don't think loneliness is a bad thing. It's not destructive because it can make you incredibly strong, powerful. They're saying something along the line is, you're just going to be lonely. Everyone around you is going to die eventually. You can't just be alive forever and forever, forever. I actually do think we can be alive for way longer than they want to give us credit to. I think back in the days, people were able to turn at least 800, 900 years old. And just imagine you being able to turn that old from a physical standpoint and also just a conscious standpoint. Yeah, you're not going to be tricked into all these things, right? You're going to be able to find something that's going to lead you more clues than if you're just alive for like 30 something years, like it was in the medieval ages. How long will it take you to give up this world? They want you to give up this world because she's literally fighting for her life. The real her is somewhere on the ground trying to be brought back to life. There's a splintered off consciousness. So we need to, right now, the main task is you need to find out where the real you is. And I strongly believe it's probably where your most consciousness is, meaning here right now, not somewhere on a ship, not somewhere entirely different. Like the Matrix movies always promote the ship thing, that this is just all the simulation, the video game. But I kind of feel, and this is how just listening to one episode is not going to get you the answers either, but it gives you some clues at least. But I kind of feel it's just a mix of all of this together, right? The alien consciousness, meaning the father, who's not really the father, but is the entity masquerading as her father, is trying to take over her consciousness and body. She literally called him a vulture, trying to prey upon her, right? So he's trying to take over her consciousness and body, which also corresponds to a lot of New Agers talking about alien walk-ins. All of a sudden, they don't feel the same that they used to before. Like consciousness as entities trying to take over their body. Entity possessions, all of that, it happens all over the spectrum, right? She also says, you can't force me to go, meaning they actually can't force you to go towards the light. You need to go voluntarily, and she'd rather stand there for all eternity than go down there, is what she said. I'd rather stand here in the nothingness, wherever she is, than actually go down towards that tunnel or towards that light, whatever. So for me, it means the longer you can actually stay here, fully conscious and not be deceived by these things constantly, the better. It also means we're not in a soul trap, but only when you go down that light. That's basically what the episode says. The episode shows they want to trap you, but you're not trapped yet, meaning we're somewhere where we have the consciousness to get out, even alive. So it's just, and that's why I'm saying, like the episode and the episode, once again, I'm not saying I agree or I disagree with any of what they're saying in that episode, but I feel it's just all these different concepts mingled together. People put their own subjectiveness onto that episode and also other things. They're like, oh, this proves we're in the soul trip. Not really, because where she is right now, wherever that in between is, and also where her real body is trying to be, they're trying to bring it back to life and everything. It doesn't appear to be the soul trap, but they try to drag her down another matrix, another soul trap. So here's what I really think. Are we in assimilation? Yes, but there's more to it. There are just way more layers to it. And all of this is possibly where you won't get a simplified answer. And we can't go round and round in circles on this all the time. It's just the entire thing is, oh, this is how you get out. This is how, but get out of where, get out to where, and get out of where. People are not defining where you are right now, which this episode actually implies you're not really trapped here, because you can consciously decide not to follow this entity down. What's also interesting is there's another episode of Star Trek saying once she dies, the same entity meets her again, and she actually goes down the tunnel. So it's not this episode specifically, but when she actually dies, her father comes and takes her. Which means, okay, you can know about all these things, the way they're trying to trick you all day long. At the end of the day, they're still trying to get to you, right? They still got her somehow. So I found that very interesting how Star Trek just kind of played it out. Like they have this huge thing in that one episode being like, no, you can't drag me down. But then literally Janeway, a few episodes down or a few years down the line, whenever she does eventually die, she is going down. So what the heck happened there, right? If you really just purely want to go by Star Trek, which I don't think you should anyhow, wow, okay, that's insane. That actually she didn't get out after all, and she knew about all this. The soul trap versus the soul being tricked to come here. So I first had a video on it in 2021 where it clearly says how we were tricked here and all the things. And I also still strongly believe there are different ways that people got here. Some were created here, that's the AI, a lot of AI, like at least 70% or more, like 80% where I am, possibly even like 85% here in the city that I am, but way too many. It keeps getting more and more too. Suicidal thought, like the suicide route is not an option, at least in my opinion. It's just damage for more. Also in this episode, they're saying they want you to give up your body and everything, right? They want you dead. So that's just another note for people trying to exit way earlier. That's actually what they want from you so that they can get you right there and right then. There are also 2 keys featured on flags, such as the flag of the Vatican. There are keys and there are ways to open the exit and somehow get out. And I strongly believe this can be while we're still alive, not when we're dead, unconscious. So it seems to be easier to remain conscious in your body now than out of it, because somehow this entire reality or the body grounds us somehow. Things that make us very precious are our DNA, our body, and our ancestry, meaning bloodline. Our DNA appears to be the same from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. A lot of people actually look similar from lifetime to lifetime as well. I had a video on my Odyssey where Britney Spears, I think it was like in the 1920s, she was like this crazy girl where she actually looks exactly the same, like literally spitting image of herself than she does now. And that was a girl who was living in San Francisco. I had a few other examples too, like I had Marie Antoinette, Kaiserin Sissi, which is like the Austrian Queen Sissi, whatever. I don't even know what people call her in English. How those people are most likely one and the same. So they have the same features, the same cheekbones, even the same statues, same bloodlines. Like Marie Antoinette came from an Austrian Habsburger bloodline, and Kaiserin Sissi, which is Elizabeth, Austria, whatever, she came from a similar, like that same similar era, same similar bloodline. Obviously, there's like years in between that, so it all gets muddled up. A lot of mistruthers like to talk about our body in a derogatory way. Also New Agers, by the way, not just mistruthers, but a lot of mistruthers do, calling it like the meat suit. But why is our body worth nothing when entities always try to take it over constantly, right? Such as during walk-ins, during entity possessions, all of that. I think there's more to our body and we need to give it way more credit. It's also important to keep our body as healthy as possible. And it should be actually your most important task right now, because they do want you sick. They do want you weakened. That's what the past 4 years really have shown. I feel people of a certain age group always talk about how they hate their body. Like I know my grandmother, she's in her 90s. She always says how she dislikes her body. Maybe people after a certain age just get to a point where they don't like their body at all anymore. But I do strongly believe it has a lot to do with what we do for it, how we nourish it, and also the mind. Everything is connected to the body, right? Like we can actually heal diseases with the mind. We can heal, most likely, you know, I'm sure there are people out there who have healed cancer, who have healed all these diseases with the power of their mind through their body, through the right nutrition, the right, everything that's needed for it. And then you have the ancestry and bloodline. People keep coming back into the same bloodline over and over again, especially these past few years, specifically the past few generations for sure. So let's just say you have a grandparent, they're going to pass over, or even like, you know, there's an uncle and they pass over and they're reincarnated someone, a cousin's child somehow, different gender, but obviously that can happen. With most, I do think they stay a similar gender at this point, but it's the same bloodline over and over again. I had like a friend, her brother died early, and I want to say like 6-7 years later, she had a kid, and looks exactly like it's the same energy imprint the brother has. So I know there's something to it. I know people have reached out to me and actually confirmed that they know their mother reincarnated somehow in their brother's lineage or whatever. So there's something to it that people are staying in the same lineage and ancestry. It's kind of like staying close together, right, to what we're used to. The Plato cave theory, I don't think it goes deep enough. I feel it's good for people who are just starting out with this topic, but I also feel the cave analogy was in regards to something entirely different, not necessarily like the soul trap. And I feel that's also what's the problem we're dealing with right now, especially with the soul trapper community. People only take things shadowly. They half-arse the entire info, and then, you know, they feature it as a truth somewhere, similar to this Coda episode. Oh, it clearly describes we are in a soul trap, when the episode actually says, no, it actually just describes they want you down a soul trap. It doesn't actually say you are in a soul trap right now. None of these people teach valuable things, such as how you can beat cancer, make more money in your life, to have your life, make it easier, right? It's always about me, victim mentality. I don't know if this is more like of an American selfish mentality we're dealing with, because a lot of these people do seem to be more American, but it's typically more about like me, this is what's going on in my life sucks, this and that, whatever. but you probably see it across the spectrum, no matter what country you go to. So a very self-focused, self-centered attitude. There's also this issue with animals, pets, plants, all like the entire, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, all of that. How do they play into this? Like, does no one really care about where do they go once you exit out of this reality, right? Like, are there no animal conscious lovers among those mistruthers? Like, are they part of an overgroup? How do they get out? How do they get help? Does everyone get out when one person gets out? I also have this video on negative thoughts being a psychic attack. It's very important because they are for sure trying to get to your mind right now. I experience it for myself almost daily at this point. I think recently I woke up from a dream and there was literally, like, the way I saw it was this black veil around me, like kind of like this black fog around me, planting more worries and thoughts into my mind that I for sure knew were not mine. Because when you wake up, you have this clarity, you kind of like in the in-between states. And this is exactly what they're doing. They're planting more negative thoughts into your head, your mind, and you go along your day and you think they're yours, but they're really not yours. Trying to make us sick through that too, because the more fears and worries you have in your reality, the sicker you can get from that. Pets can ground you, animals can ground you for sure, because animals are more instinctual and in that sense more intuitive. They have to really tap into their instincts to survive, right, than people are. So I would actually see how animals react to a lot of these things in our reality too. Our reality in and of itself has never felt as heavy as now. When you tap into the astral, you can literally feel it. Did not appear to be that way in 2017, 2018, and before. People want this fancy and far-reach stories of others helping them, such as mistruthers, psychics, who just tell fairy tales at this point. Oh yeah, when I die, I won't come back. But in reality, I do believe the key is to be here somehow and at least gain enough consciousness of what is really going on before you follow someone down a half-arsed, misinformed, dubious rabbit hole, or take advice from people who are actually doing more harm than good. Even when it's not intentional, it still does harm. Just like we said in a lot of previous videos, just look at the video before this one and the video before that one. And I personally also want to point out, in my personal life, we all have relatives, you all have parents or someone who you grew up with. I've been also thinking on how can I tell my relatives, especially the older ones, how to simply wait and not cross over once they are crossed over, but you literally can't force others to do so. Like, I was talking about it to one of my relatives, and mind you, they know nothing about any, they're not a follower of the New Age. They're not religious. They're not a follower of any truth or theory. Like, they're literally just a normal person living their life. And this person's in her 60s. And I was like, okay, so when you die, do not go down the tunnel of light. Like, do not, like, I already been telling these people for the past 2 years or so. And the initial reaction I got from her was like, oh, for sure, I'm going down I know exactly where to go. I'm going down that tunnel of light. So I also feel it's like this program somehow planted in people's heads through TV programming, through other types of programming. I don't know where the heck it was coming from in her specific case, because she was in her 60s. So it's like the baby boomer generation. If they kind of grew up with that, I have no idea. I personally never grew up with that idea of the tunnel of the light tunnel. But for her, it was like straightforward. Oh no, straight. Yeah, for sure, I'm going. And no matter how much you argue with these people, like I'm saying, you can't force people to do what they think they want to do. Let's put it that way. You can just tell them over and over again. But just because you're saying now you won't ever go down those things does not mean once you're faced with that decision that you won't go either. I want to put that out there too, because those entities are tricksters and they will pull any trick out of their hat. It's one thing being conscious and be aware right now, but it's another being able to act out on that once you're in that actual situation. That's kind of how I felt when I was talking to people about this topic who were not watching any of these YouTube videos, just not even being part of any of this. Wherever we are right now is probably still better than somewhere where we are splintered off. Just another thought I'm throwing out there. And it does appear to be the more you can actually do it, like the more you're in groups that have a similar mentality, the more you can connect with those people, the better. AI is all around us. So I do strongly believe once we pass over there, you're literally going to be facing AI. You know, there's no other planet to go to, no other galaxy, no other nothing. It's all AI. It's all been taken over by AI. So this seems to be one of the last places where there's no AI, which is also why everyone's kind of clustered here in this Earth realm or wherever the heck we're supposed to be, you know, including the animal souls, including the plant souls. Like we're all clustered here. We're all just thrown together. There's a lot of conflict. You know, people don't like each other, like species don't like each other. You know, if you go to wildlife, like they're attacking each other in wildlife too. The lion doesn't like this one, that one, you know, those type of things. So yeah, we're constantly distracted with drama, with thoughts, entertainments, hardships, people acting out the entities that control them, and everything else they're throwing at us right now too. There are things you can do to improve your daily life and mindset. You know, major one is get off your screens, get off your phones, enter a different reality and timeline that you are when you go down those. Be kind to others. You have no idea how much kindness can actually make a person's way. You know, like I was smiling at this person in the elevator the other day. I could tell it was changing their entire reality in that moment. So just being kind to others goes a very long way too. Or when someone's kind to you, changes your entire day, right? And having a good day and then another good day after that, and then it just changes your entire reality. Enjoying life, a huge one. Finding an actual community, meaning a physical community, also really important. Personally, those would be the things I would focus on, not some dubious insights or things that get us nowhere. These people, like I already said, they don't know either. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. And no matter how many times they claim that, you know, they channel matrices, beings outside of the matrix or whatever. I forgot to mention the EMF patches are another giveaway, right? Like them doing like the patches, whatever, that are supposed to heal your DNA. Yeah, okay, right. The pyramid scheme. So if these people are wrapped in a pyramid scheme here in this reality, what makes you think energetically they're not enwrapped in that either? It's just a rhetoric question. You get the point. There's energetics to all of this. You know, people who fall for pyramid schemes when they're consciously well aware that those are bad, what makes you think they don't fall for schemes outside of the body in the astral? Okay, and I just see a lot of these accounts being almost carbon copies of themselves, you know, just copy pasting ideas of others. Oh, here's another really interesting one. There's a soul trap definition that's actually taken from computer games, and that's a true Aleister Crowley type of definition. I will mention it right now in this video. So the question was, this was a question asked 2 years ago in a forum. What is a soul trap? How does it work? A soul trap is either a spell that can be cast by a mage or an effect on a weapon that when used on an enemy can cause their soul to be trapped. I feel this still applies to this current reality for sure. It requires that you have a soul gem of appropriate size or greater in your inventory to channel the soul into. There are 6 kinds of soul gems: petty, lesser, common, greater, grand, and black. I've been getting black souls recently. Just, you know, personal life circuit, like people who have actual black souls, which I found interesting that this is mentioned in general regular games that people are, you know, just general computer PC games. Like they're actually saying there are black souls out there. Petty soul gems can only contain the souls of smaller animals. That's kind of what Aleister Crowley did, right? Like he was trying to trap animal souls somehow with the methods that he did. Skeevers, mud crabs, regular wolves, other such creatures. The bigger or more powerful the enemy is, the bigger the soul gem needs to be. The souls of people can only be contained by a black soul gem. So you should probably be aware of people who have a black soul, is what I'm reading out of this. Very powerful enemies require grand soul gems. Giants and powerful enemies require greater soul gems. If you kill a creature with a petty soul and only have a lesser soul gem available, the soul will be trapped in that gem, but the gem won't be as useful since it doesn't have the full soul it can contain. Dropping a gem on the ground will release the soul and allow it to be used for a larger soul. Soul gems are used to refill the charges on an enchanted weapon or to enchant weapons or armor. The larger the soul used, the more it will fill the charges or the stronger the enchantment will be. I found that definition and explanation very interesting because I do think a lot of it applies to the current life that we're living too. Okay, I hope this helps someone. I think that's all I wanted to cover. If not, there will be more videos about it, also other topics, obviously. But I hope this clarifies a lot, especially for people who watched the last video. Don't fall for cult mentalities. Don't fall for, you know, people trying to trap you somewhere where you don't belong. Once again, energy is consciousness, attention is consciousness, energy is currency, consciousness is currency, attention is currency. It's all the currency that they're trying to siphon off of you. All right, guys, have a wonderful one. Until then.